Good morning and welcome to your Financial Empower Hour. This is Jason Cryderman with Great Lakes Investment Advisors, and I'm here with my awesome host, Mr. Tony Shore. Tony, how are you today, buddy?
Well, I'm doing really good, Jason. And, I know you've been busy. We've both had last week was crazy and insane, but I am excited because I think summer's finally here. We just passed the longest day of the year just this past week. So that was fun. Just got to sit outside. I'm watching the sunset at about 9:15, 9:30.
Isn't it awesome? Yeah, I mean, this time of year is so it's so cool that think about in the wintertime. Boy, winter's just depressing. And by 5:30, 6 o'clock, everybody's in the house with their sweatpants and hoodies on, and you're climbing under a blanket, watching TV or reading a book. And
Right.
here it is now. It's summertime and it's 9:30. It's still daylight. You don't want to come in the house. It's like
Right, exactly. That's
it's a
what I love.
totally different feeling to life when you get to enjoy summer like this. So, hey, by the way, happy belated Father's Day to you.
Yeah, to
And
you as well.
thank you. As we're recording this show, it's Monday morning, the day after Father's Day.
Yeah.
So for all of our viewers and listeners, a very happy belated Father's Day to you as well.
Yeah. Yeah. I thought about you yesterday. I go, oh, I wonder what he's doing with the kids, how Carson's doing. I'm sure you spent some family time yesterday, right?
We did. Yeah, we really did. As you know, busy with the kids. But right now we're kind of in a scary point in our lives, really, Tony, because we don't have a lot of sports or anything going on. And that concerns Amy and I because we're so used to, Lexi being so busy and
Yeah.
Josie being so busy and Carson being so busy. And right now, all we have going is Carson is playing Little League. His travel ball, we're on a break from travel ball. We have one more tournament at the end of July, and right now Josie's kind of in the lull for summer and Lexi's home for summer in the lull. So it's been really great. It's been really cool just to have everybody kind of around the house,
Yeah.
not having to run between track meets and band and cheer and baseball and all that stuff. But
Sure.
it doesn't it goes fast, as you know, and as my viewers and listeners know. Before we know it, it's going to be August, September, and the old country song, The Boys of Fall. We'll be back to the football field. We'll be back to cheer. Lexi will be back to Michigan State. So all that comes so fast. But yeah, we were able to have a great weekend, Tony, with my family. Spent some time over with Amy's family as well over in the Essexville area. So yeah, it was really good. How about you? How'd you spend? I'm going to guess you spent some time out in your catio. Yes, listeners and viewers, I said catio, CAT. Catio. So Tony, you got it. I know we talked about it last week. We're probably going to talk about every show from now on out because that thing blows my mind. I mean, it's not just this little. I thought you were going to have a little box outside a window for this your cat, but you built an entire exterior room and you called it catio.
Well, and it's really a screened-in porch behind our house, a screened-in patio. But initially, it started as something we were just putting in for our cats, and it was going to be small. And then I'm like, no, I want to be able to go in and out, put a door in and have a floor. We want to be able to sit in it as well. So
you got to enjoy it with the cats. You can't just let the cats be in there by themselves.
Right. I know. It got a little crazy, but it did turn out nice. And I thought I was pretty excited about it.
Well, I'm very impressed just by seeing the video on Facebook of it, the film there. I'm very impressed. And so,
I did it myself. I surprised myself, honestly, on this because I'm
sure
not a handy guy.
Your wife either. So I'm sure you're really surprised.
She's already got, now you can build. Oh, you can do this. Now I've got to build above ground planters for her.
Oh yeah. Well, see, therein lies the problem. Once you show them your talents, they know what you're capable of.
Yeah.
Oh, the honeydew lists are just going to rack up now. Build me this, make me this, fix this.
Yeah, that's the problem right there.
She deserves it, Tony. She definitely deserves it. And I was very excited to see that. So again, if any of my listeners and viewers, check out Tony Shore on Facebook and go to his last 2 weeks. I think he's got a couple videos of this catio, this outdoor at least a screened in porch area, but it all started as an area for the cats to go outside and enjoy the outdoors without getting loose. And so now he made it big enough that him and his wife and the family and the cats are all able to enjoy it together. And so that's pretty cool. I think that's pretty neat.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. It took a long time. I mean, actually, it didn't take. Really, I only worked on it weekends for about 6 weekends. I mean, we've been talking about it and planning for about 6 months, and then I
Yeah,
once I kicked it down. But I put in some long days on that thing.
I bet you
8
did.
a.m. to 9 p.m. I was working into the night.
Oh yeah.
And my wife laughs because I picked the weekends I picked were the hottest weekends on record. Like we
Of
had
course. Isn't that how it always works out? Isn't that
upper
how it
80s
always
and
works out?
90s, and now we've had some cooler weekends. But hey, now we enjoy the cooler weekends. We get to
Right.
sit in the screened-in patio and enjoy it. So
Yep.
that's good. Now, for our listeners coming up, I just want to let them know today we have a pretty serious topic. There's a lot of downsizing going on, especially in the area
Yes.
across the country, but here in the area in Michigan, there's some layoffs, there's some downsizing.
Mhm.
Some people might be forced into early retirement, and you've put together a survival guide for them, some things they need to consider and look at. And I know you've been meeting with some of these folks and would love to hear from them to help them with this. So we're going to talk about that today. Some of some of the things they can do after a layoff or early retirement, right? We're going to start
Yeah.
talking about that eventually
Yeah,
here.
absolutely. I think all of our shows are very educational, very
Sure.
beneficial but this one is really, really serious because you're right, Tony. I mean, these layoffs and downsizing and corporate restructuring, this stuff happens all the time. It
Yeah.
happens all over. But right now we are experiencing it here in Michigan, in mid-Michigan. It's real. It's real. It's happening right now. And,
Yeah.
and I, so it's important. I want to be a resource. I want myself and my team to be able to be a resource for anybody that finds themselves in that situation where maybe you're a victim of corporate restructuring, you've been downsized, you've been laid off, you've been forced to early retire, whatever it might be. So I put together a top 8 things to do after a layoff or early retirement. And I don't even like the word after that I put in there because, again, just like the tagline of the book I wrote, Tony, I want to plan for the best, but prepare for the worst. So you really should almost be planning and preparing ahead, right? We plan for the best. I'll always have a job, always make the most money. Everything's going to be great. But we need to be prepared also. We need to be prepared that if I do find myself on the unfortunate side of a corporate restructuring or a downsizing or a layoff, am I ready? Am I ready? Am I prepared for that? And so that's one of the things we're going to spend a lot of time on our show today, Tony, talking about, because I think it's really important to be that resource for those people that are in that unfortunate position.
Yeah, I would agree. And it is tough. And I've known some people, they had some government layoffs, as you know, last year, and my brother-in-law was laid off unexpectedly, and he was 61, 62 age. So it's like, do I retire
Right.
or do I not?
Well,
And
then
what
think
do I
about that
do for
age,
health insurance?
healthcare, social security, all those things. So we're gonna get really deep into this on the show today.
Yeah, we're going to get into that. And I think there are a lot of things to take into consideration here, Jason. I think that's huge. So before we do, though, I want to jump in and give away some copies of your book. And you talk about some of these things in the book.
Yep.
Empower Your Retirement, right? It's a great book. You and your dad wrote this book, and you're giving away 10 copies today. Is it okay if we give away?
I think it's a great idea. Yep. I love it when you do that, Tony. And it's funny because our phones do blow up and people are like, hey, am I one of the 10 callers? Am I caller
Right.
8? Am I caller 9? What number am I? I want a book.
Yeah.
So please, Tony, by all means. I love it when you give away the books.
The first 10 people to contact the office and say they heard about it on the show, they want a copy of the book. You don't even have to pay postage. There's no charge.
Yep.
There's no obligation. There's no cost. All you have to do, pick up the phone, call Great Lakes Investment Advisors. The number is 989-835-7203. That's 989-835-7203. And the first 10 callers get a copy of that book sent to them at no charge. Also, if you have been laid off or downsized recently, or you're wondering, do I retire? What do I do about healthcare? We're going to talk about some of the things you can do in the show, but you need to be working with a financial professional to help make it through this time and look at your current situation. And you can also call and set up that no charge consultation. Again, the number 989-835-7203, or you can schedule it right online at GreatLakesInvestmentAdvisors.com. And you are listening to your Financial Empower Hour. We're talking with our host, Jason Cryderman, today about, hey, are you going to be forced into early retirement? Do you have to try to find a job? This is your financial survivor guide. If you've been laid off, downsized, or forced out of your job for any reason, this is the show for you. I think it's really good that you put this together, Jason. Where do you want to start? What are some things we need to be looking at here?
Yeah. So, again, as I mentioned in the first segment there, Tony, I think it's important, if you have found yourself on the unfortunate side of a corporate restructuring or a layoff or a downsizing or a position eliminated, whatever it might be, it's okay. I want people, don't be embarrassed. These things happen, right? It's normal. Unfortunately, it's part of the job world today. It's part of corporate world today. And so don't be embarrassed. Don't be shy. It's, hey, you know what? Maybe when one door closes, another door opens. I really try to stay optimistic and look at it that way. And so, think about on the bright side, gee, what's next, right? So, but before you think about what's next, I did put together, as you mentioned, Tony, my team and the team at Gradient Investments put together a cool little guide. It's a booklet. Anybody can call into the office and request one of these booklets. It's called The Top 8 Things to Do After a Layoff or for Early Retirement. And again, I want to take that word after out of there, because I think we need to be preparing ahead of time, especially nowadays. These corporate restructurings, these layoffs, they're happening more and more and more often than they ever did before. So I like the tagline of my book, Tony. It says, plan for the best, we'll prepare for the worst.
Yes.
Plan for the best is, hey, I'm going to have a great job. I'm going to have a great employer. I'm going to be a great employee. I'm going to just get a raise every year, get bonuses, and then retire when I'm ready. That's the best, right? But let's plan for the worst also. Let's think about ahead of time, be proactive. What if my job gets eliminated? What if there's corporate restructuring? What if I get downsized? What if I'm laid off? What if I get let go before I'm ready to retire? And I think if you can prepare ahead of time, you'll be way more ready and prepared if that thing does happen to you. So I can't stress that enough. But yeah, so I want to, we'll talk in the show today, Tony. And here's a picture for my viewers and listeners. This is just kind of an outline that I'm going to be looking at today, because you got to think about a few things. Okay, first of all, what age are you? Are you in your 30s or 40s? So definitely early in your career. Or are you maybe in your late 50s, late 60s, and this layoff, this might actually be an awesome opportunity just to cruise into retirement, right?
Right.
So you got to figure out what phase of your career, what phase of life are you in? It can feel very overwhelming when you lose a job. But don't let it derail your financial future. I tell everybody, and again, I'm a huge resource. I get phone calls all the time. I have visits all the time here in the office with people who are preparing just in case. What if that's me? So I'm helping them ahead of time, be prepared for that. And of course, when it happens, we sit down with a lot of people and have a lot of phone calls with, okay, it just happened. I was just let go. I was downsized. I was 2 years from retirement. So, hey, help me get into this retirement 2 years early. Or, geez, I'm in my 40s. I got 20 years to go before retirement. What do I do next, right? Where am I today? And so I tell everybody, the decisions you make usually in the first 30 to 90 days when something like that happens, they're going to have a very major impact on your financial future, right? On the rest of life. So it's nothing you have to panic about drastically, but within 30 to 90 days of something like that happening, you really need to sit down and make sure you have your ducks in a row or get them in a row. And so we'll talk today, about some of these areas that you want to focus on, Tony.
Yeah. Yeah. I think these areas are great that you've mentioned. Let's dig into these things we need to do after a layoff or maybe early retirement. Again, don't panic. Assess your situation.
That's
right?
number one. Yep, that's number one, Tony, is don't panic. I mean, and a lot of people are shy, they're embarrassed, and they're panic. It's okay. It's normal, right? It is okay. It's normal. Try to prepare for it. The more you're prepared, the less panic, the more comfortable it's going to be if it does happen. But things you want to review right away. Let's say you're preparing, hey, if this does happen, or geez, it just happened. You want to take a breath before making any major financial decisions. You want to review things like, do they offer you a severance package? Do you have any unused vacation or buyout time? Do you have any bonuses that are owed to you yet? Do you have any stock options or deferred compensation? Do you have a 401k? Are you vested in the 401k? You need to also determine from a personal standpoint, how much cash do you have available? What are your monthly expenses? And how long will those resources last? So those are keys right there, Tony. And my wife likes to call that the B word, and that's budget. We got to talk about our budget. How much money are we spending? And if you don't have a handle on your budget now, if you get laid off or lose your job, that B word, that budget becomes extremely important, extremely vital to get a handle on. What the heck are we spending? Because you might have to start cutting some expenses. They might be permanently cut, or they might just be short term. But you better have a handle on what you're spending, because you're going to have to tighten up a little bit, tighten the spending. And then we got to look at your sources of income. If you're married, does your spouse still have income? Will that be enough to uphold the monthly spending? If you're not married or your spouse doesn't have other income and you are the only source of income, well, that's a whole nother situation. How much savings do you have? Did you have, and we're going to get into it a little bit here, through this segment or the next segment, but how much cash flow do you have on hand? Do you have 3 months, 6 months, 12 months of cash on hand to help you get through those unfortunate times? If you don't have a job for 3 months or 6 months, or maybe you need to float a year till you get to that retirement stage. Those are big decisions to make. But again, I can't stress it enough, Tony. The more you can try to prepare ahead of time, if this happens to me, because we all know somebody that's been, unfortunately, found themselves on the downside where they're laid off or corporate restructured, position eliminated, whatever it is. If we can prepare ahead of time so that if this stuff happens, you're already a step ahead of the game, it's going to be so much easier for you and your family and your expenses and your lifestyle and even your attitude and your mindset. And your attitude and your mindset are going to hopefully help you roll into that next career position if that's what you need to do.
Yeah. Well, and I think that's huge, Jason, and it is so important. Cash flow, you've got to have that. I know this is one reason why you always stress have an emergency fund just for this reason, 3 to 6 months of expenses to live on, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So, and people's like, I don't know how much I'm going to need. Well, that B word, budget. You got to figure out what your expenses are. And so you need to calculate the essential monthly expenses. When I mean essentials, we're talking mortgage, rent, utilities, food, insurances, debt, those things you have to pay, right? You have to pay to survive. And you want to then look at your discretionary spending. Maybe your Starbucks, maybe we're eating out, maybe we're going to the movies, maybe we have Amazon, whatever it might be. We got to look at that discretionary spending and maybe cut back a little. And again, this could be permanent or maybe it's just temporary, but you got to cut back on the discretionary spending so you can establish what I call a realistic what if, a realistic
right.
Oh crap budget for the next 6 months, right? Realistically, I mean, oh crap, I lost my job. Now what? It is what it is. You should have anywhere from 3 to 6 months or 6 to 12 months of cash on hand in a savings, checking, money market, somewhere where I call it local and liquid. So it's not in your Fidelity 401k. That's not what I call local and liquid. It's local, it's liquid. You can put your hands on it in a matter of minutes by driving to the bank or credit union. It's liquid, meaning there's no fees, no charges, really no taxes. There's no income tax going to be on there. So you need to have at least 3 to 6, if not 12 months of cash on hand. And again, prioritize liquidity over investment returns. This is hard for some people to do, Tony. They think, the bank only pays me 1% or 2%, whatever it is. And I can make 12% at Fidelity. And so, well, problem is when when push comes to shove and we're in dire straits and all of a sudden we have bills to pay and we don't have income coming in, like that biweekly paycheck stopped, it's more important to have local and liquid money than it is to try to be earning 10, 12, 15% when it takes longer to get that money. There's probably fees tied to that money. There may be taxes tied to that money if you choose to pull it out. And what happens if it's a day, a week, or a month where the market's down 10 or 15%? Now you have less money to spend.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. And I think that's so important to have that emergency fund. You've always, I don't want to say harped on it, but you've really tried to drill that home to people, even on past shows. And when you meet with clients or when people first call you, save up for your emergency fund. Yes, you've got to invest and save for retirement, but you also need to be setting aside to build up that emergency fund at least 6 to 12 months. Especially as you get closer to retirement. And it's really for this type of thing if you happen to get laid off. So you're right. You said cash gives you the flexibility. So if people want to know, hey, how can I do this? Or based on where I'm at, what can I set aside? What do I need to do? Let's talk about you and Great Lakes. You offer a no charge, no obligation consultation, and they can set that up just by calling, right?
Yeah, really, just by calling the office. You can even go to our website. You can go to our website and request a callback or a consultation or a visit, but you just call the office. And I tell you, so if you've already found yourself in a position where you're going to be downsized, you're going to be laid off, you're going to lose your job, whatever it might be, please call my office. Be more than happy to schedule a 15-minute or a half-hour phone call or office visit with you to talk about where are you? Where are you at? What do you need to do? What's next? And how can I help you make this a smoother transition versus a panic and a drastic, oh no, right? An oh crap situation. So, or if you're not, you say, gee, I don't have to worry about it. I'm not getting downsized. I'm not getting laid off. Well, if you'd like to schedule a 15-minute or a half-hour phone call or office visit to prepare, right? We don't want to plan it's going to happen, but we need to also be prepared that, golly, if this does happen to my job, if this happens to my business and my job, what do I need to do ahead of time? How can I proactively prepare to put myself in the best position if that does happen? But again, if you'd like to have, anything, this has happened to you or you want to prepare in case it does, please reach out to the office. Be happy to schedule that 15-minute, half-hour phone call or office visit with myself or another member of my team.
Awesome. Well, Jason, that sounds fantastic. I think that's great. Again, just pick up the phone, give Jason and his team a call. It's 989-835-7203. That's 989-835-7203. And this is your Financial Empower Hour. Today, we're talking about some top things you need to do, things you need to be thinking about after a layoff. You've even touched on some to do in case you're laid off. Hopefully, people do have an emergency fund. Not everyone does. I know that a big part of this, the next point you wanted to talk about was probably health insurance, right? That is if I have just been laid off or downsized, health insurance is a biggie, isn't it?
Oh, it's huge. It's actually one of the main determining factors of when people retire, right? If they get all the way to the retirement, it's, gee, do I get health insurance from my employer after I retire? Does my spouse have health insurance, or do I have to wait till age 65 till I can get Medicare? So that's a huge determining factor for people to think about.
It's so expensive, right?
This
is the problem. I mean, you think health insurance, it's health insurance. If you don't get it through your employer, they're covering, you're saying, well, I had to pay for it through my employer, but your employer's covering about 50% probably.
Yes. And again, that's, most people say, oh, my employer covers it. Well, most employers don't cover 100% of the bill. They subsidize it, right? So you still pay for it out of payroll. So then it's a matter of, gee, after you retire, will you still have to pay for it? So that's a big decision for retirees. Now let's think about, retiring is your choice, but if you found your business just went through a corporate restructuring, or is going through or might go through a corporate restructuring, a downsizing, and all of a sudden they're going to lay off and people are losing jobs, that's not your choice. So now your back is against the wall a little bit to determine, gee, am I going to have health insurance coverage? Can I have coverage extended through my employer? And so that's that in a severance package. That's something you need to find out. Is there going to be COBRA coverage potentially available? Do you have a spouse that has coverage available on his or her plan? Marketplace. What is marketplace, and what are the plans, and what's available, and what if I'm eligible for Medicare depending on my age? So these are all huge questions, Tony, that really, to me, insurances are a racket. I mean, it's just, they're expensive, they're crazy. And I use, I don't do any of these health insurances. I help people plan and prepare and then deal with, if this happens, who do we go to? And so we have resources that we would refer you to if you have questions about health insurance. Gee, Jason brought up a good point. I don't know if we'll have coverage. I don't know what my coverage is going to cost. I don't know anything about COBRA. I don't know what this marketplace is. Please call my office. We'd be more than happy to schedule a 15-minute or a half-hour consultation with myself and another resource that's all they do is specialize in health insurance. That's a point in time where you don't want to go it alone. Tony, and you've said this many a times, whether it be a CPA when you're doing your own taxes, an attorney, a dentist when you're doing your own root canal. There's just some things you shouldn't go alone on.
Right. That's for sure.
This is another one of those things, when you're talking about potentially losing your job and planning for, health insurance, you need to use a professional. And so we have those resources, Tony, that we can bring to people that have unfortunately been in this position and may already have or be losing their health insurance, or just want to be preparing ahead of time. If this happens, what can I do ahead of time?
Yep. Yeah, I think that's fantastic. I know that a lot of people out there, they think, well, in retirement, I'll be covered with Medicare. That doesn't start until 65.
Right.
Or, health insurance is getting expensive, but I've been covering it. They don't realize their employer has been covering at least a portion of it. And if you're between there, let's say you get laid off or downsized from your job and you're 57 or even 60, anywhere in there, you're going to have to cover 100% then. If you're most companies won't keep providing health care after you're let go. Some do offer it as part of a package, not many. And so you're on the hook for full cost insurance at that point, probably. And that is tough. Even through the Affordable Care Act or COBRA, very expensive.
Very expensive. And that's where you got to have somebody on your team, somebody that's willing to fight for you and go say, hey, look, here's our options. Here's COBRA. Let's go to Marketplace. Let's custom build these plans. Like, do a high deductible plan, do a low deductible. What are your health concerns? I mean, so many variables come into play there that you need to use resource, and we can definitely get you lined up with specialists in those fields.
Yeah. I mean, when you get laid out, it's emotional. You're going to be emotional about things, making emotional decisions. And your primary thing is, what am I going to do for income? But you also have to pay attention to some of these other areas, like health insurance. And it has to be something that you have a strategy for or find a solution for. Now let's move on to the next one. What's next that you think?
Yeah, so we're going to stay in that insurance bubble. I mean, I think health insurance is vital. Health insurance is crucial, vital, especially if you have a family. I mean, it's vital. It's crucial right now. The next one isn't so vital or crucial for some people, and that is life insurance. Did your employer offer? Did they pay for 100%, or did they help subsidize, or did they allow you to purchase life insurance through them? Because many people don't realize employer life insurance oftentimes goes away when employment ends, or it reduces substantially. So, you got to think, and again, this isn't, a lot of people say, I don't need or want life. Well, there are some people that this is very, very crucial and very vital to them. So I think it's very important, Tony, that we talk about it, right?
Yeah.
Because you might have had group life insurance. There might have been supplemental policies. There could have been a whole life policy. There could have been a term policy. There could be disability coverage. There could be so many different types of insurances, not just health insurance. So you need to really review that. You need to determine, does your family depend on you for income? And if it does, a lot of people use life insurance as income replacement. case I die early, I need to make sure that there's life insurance benefits that go to my spouse or my family. So number one, they can pay off debt. Number two, they can pay off any medical bills. And number three, they can replace the income that I was bringing in. So those are reasons, that you might want to have life insurance. And you might have to replace that coverage privately now, meaning your employer might have paid for it before, might have been easier to get with less insurability. But now if you're on your own, you really have to assess your need for coverage. Do you need coverage? Maybe you didn't before, maybe now you do, or maybe you did before and now you don't. Do you need coverage? How much coverage do you really need? And what's the most economical way to finance that? And sometimes when you lose a job and before you get your next paycheck coming back in, there might be a problem with going and having extra expenses like, wow, now I'm going to go buy life insurance. That might not be the right time unless you have prepared and you have that 6 to 12 months of emergency fund, cash on hand that you can afford to spend a little extra money at that time. But so health insurances are a big one. And then if we're probably don't have time in this segment to get into this all the way, Tony, but our next segment, we're going to dive into and probably stay in investments. Do you have IRAs? Do you have Roth IRAs? Do you have brokerage accounts? Do you have a 401k through this employer that just let you go, that just downsized, just laid you off? Do you have a 401k, 403b, 457, a type of employment plan through them? And if so, you're going to want to stay tuned. You're going to want to pay attention to the do's and the don'ts with those employer plans.
Yeah, there you go. Well, and how are you going to do that? I think set up a consultation with you and your team, Jason. We're going to offer our listeners and viewers out there that no charge, no obligation consultation. Pick up the phone, give Jason and his team at Great Lakes Investment Advisors a call, 989-835-7203. That's 989-835-7203, and mention that you heard about it on the show and set up that consultation. You can also go to greatlakesinvestmentadvisors.com. And you are listening to your Financial Empower Hour. I'm your co-host, Tony Shore. I'm here with our host, the man himself, Jason Cryderman. We need to go over a couple of quick, we got a couple of more here that we need to fit in. What else, if you've gotten laid off recently or your company's downsizing, what else do we need to know about that?
Well, one of the biggies is I mentioned it right before the end of the last segment is what investments do you have? Do you have your own personal IRAs, Roth IRAs, brokerage accounts? Those are one aspect. But when you lose a job, when you've been downsized, you've been laid off, corporate restructuring, whatever you want to call it, you need to really take a good assessment of, do you have a 401k, a 403b, a 457? Do you have an employer-sponsored retirement plan through that company? Different than a pension. That's also something you want to take a look at. Is if you're fortunate enough, Tony, you and I know we're not, but if you're fortunate enough to still have one of those things they call a pension, which is guaranteed lifetime income after employment, they're phenomenal. They're amazing, but most of them are gone. But if you do have a pension, it's important that you find out in your final package what happens to that pension. Yeah. Some corporations are going to offer you a lump sum buyout of that. Some of them are going to say, hey, just when you reach a certain age, 65, whatever, it's going to turn into $1,000 a month, whatever it might be. So you need to know that, though. You need to find out, do I have a pension? Do I have lump sum option? What are my terms here? How much am I going to get? But if you have a 401k, a corporate employer plan, that's an investment plan, a 401k, this could be one of the biggest assets that you're ever going to have in your life, but it could also cause you some of the biggest problems if you don't do the right things or if you do the wrong things with it, especially after leaving a job. And this might even be if you left a job voluntarily yourself. I meet a lot of people, Tony, that they say, hey, I worked for ABC company for 15 years and now I'm over at XYZ company, and they still have that old 401k from ABC company. Well, what you do or don't do with that money it can make or break an awesome retirement. So pay attention to that because you got a lot of options, and sometimes they don't tell you what these options are, and you want to make sure you know what your options are and you have an understanding of them. You can always leave that 401k with the current custodian if the employer allows it. And most employers, especially locally here, they don't force you to move your 401k. So they
Right.
tell you, hey, you can keep your 401k right at Charles Schwab or right at Fidelity or right at Merrill Lynch and right at Empower, wherever it is. And that's great. You don't have to move it. But you need to know you're not forced to leave it there either.
Right. And I always say, I know you've mentioned this in the past, but in a lot of cases, you're not working there. Why would you leave your money there?
Correct.
And you might have more control over it if you rolled it into an IRA, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. So, you think about when you have it with your employer, it's convenient. It's convenient because they set it up for you. They did all the paperwork. They picked all the 20 or 30 investment options. You just had to pick which ones you want to be in inside there. They pick the custodian. They do everything, right? Well, but you lose a lot of control. You lose a lot of flexibility. You lose a lot of options and choices when you leave your money in a previous employer's 401k plan. If you were to roll that money to an IRA, as you just mentioned, Tony, which doesn't cost anything, you fill out some paperwork, you open an IRA, and you do a rollover, qualified rollover. There's no fees to do that, and there are no taxes because you're not doing a withdrawal. There's no age restrictions or limitations. No, it's a qualified rollover. Okay. When you do that, you gain flexibility, you gain control, you gain choices, you gain options, you gain more power over your money.
And if you're working with a trusted financial professional who can make sure that money is more actively managed like you do for your clients, you want to make sure you have actively managed money. So it might be smart to take those old 401ks, work with someone like yourself and the team at Great Lakes Investments, and so they're actively managed daily. You can put your clients on the phone with their portfolio managers. You're not going to get that inside a 401k. So I think you make some great points there. You can also Roth, right? You could convert it to a Roth, but then there
absolutely.
are taxes,
So yeah,
right?
one of the choices. Yep, you can roll it to an IRA. You can do a conversion to a Roth. Now, when you do that, there are going to be taxes due. So again, you don't just want to willy nilly say, "Hey, I got all this 401k. Let's throw it in a Roth." Well, proactively ahead of time, we need to figure out what tax position are you in right now. If you do convert money from an IRA or a 401k to a Roth, what will that do to your tax bill? You don't want to shoot yourself in the foot just because someone said a Roth was a great thing. It can be a great thing, but you have to be careful and be precise about making these moves. And again, that's what myself and my team does for people is we sit down with you proactively ahead of time so we can plan for the best, but prepare for the worst and hopefully prevent the worst from happening. Right. So some things we can't prevent, but if you prepare the best ahead of time, it'll help you get through these unfortunate times.
Yeah. And like you said, a layoff is not automatically a reason to liquidate those retirement assets either. You got to watch out for that. So then are you going to re-enter the job market? Or maybe this is an opportunity to retire, right? Let's talk about those things.
Yeah, I think that's important. You kind of made a really good point there. A layoff, losing our job, a downsizing, whatever you want to call it, that is not a reason to start pulling money out of your investments and spending them, especially out of your retirement plans like an IRA or a Roth or a 401k. Yeah. Those are designed for retirement. So just because you lost your job, do not panic. This is not the time to automatically just start, oh, I need money. Now, granted, yes, there are some people that you don't have a choice. To make ends meet, to pay the bills, to put food on the table, you have to pull money out of your 401k, unfortunately. Hopefully you're over 59 and a half, so you don't have the 10% premature penalty as well. But either way, it's going to be taxed. That's a last resort. Absolute last resort is to touch any of those retirement accounts for income. You don't want to have to do that if at all possible. Right. So again, assess your situation. Were you 1 to 2 years away from retirement anyhow? Hey, this might be a great opportunity to slide out a little early. Can you bridge the gap? If not, you need to really start thinking about how do I re-enter the workforce? Like I just got downsized. I've been with this company for, let's say 2 years or 20 years. It doesn't matter. It happens to everybody. But there's some things you want to start doing because the job market may be a lot more competitive now or look different and changed, maybe older or younger contestants trying out for the same jobs. Maybe people hiring less number of people for the job. So markets have changed. You want to update your resumes. You want to refresh maybe your LinkedIn profile. You want to practice interviewing. practice interviewing with a friend, like Tony and I here. Practice interviewing with your family in front of a mirror.
Yeah.
Practice, plan for the best. Plan for it and prepare ahead of time. Reconnect with professional contacts, right? Reconnect with your buddies, your groups, your friends, whether it be through church or through just any organization out there. And it's networking, right? And I can't really stress that enough, is networking should be happening all the time. We can't get too comfortable and complacent that we think we don't need to do that anymore. We're good. Well, you never know when this could happen to you. And the more you've networked and the easier it is to get back into networking, usually the quicker it is to find another opportunity and slide over into another position within your networking group. And so I think that's a big deal, right? Stay active. Don't become too complacent. Again, prepare. This could happen to anybody.
Yeah, it could. Well, hey, it's been a great show today. There's a lot to talk about here, a lot more to talk about, and we'll probably discuss it some on upcoming shows along with our other topics because it is happening a lot out there. I know, Jason, this is a topic you're passionate about. You love to hear from our listeners out there. So listeners, if you're going through this or have more questions about this, pick up the phone, give Jason and his team a call. All you have to do is call 989-835-7203. That number again is 989-835-7203. What do you think, Jason?
I think it's been a great show, and you're absolutely right, Tony. I love the opportunity to be a resource for people in our area, for people in our communities that have questions. So as Tony mentioned, if you have questions about, I have been downsized, I have been laid off, or I might be, or what if I do, or my friend, give my office a call. We'd be more than happy to schedule a no cost, no obligation, 15-minute consultation to help you prepare for, plan, and move on.
All right. Sounds great, Jason. And listeners and viewers, thanks for tuning in. That does it for today's episode of your Financial Empower Hour with our host, Jason Cryderman.